Hello, my name's Louise Schwarzkopf and I'm here today on this beautiful Sydney day at one of the most creative places in town. This is a Sydney dance company, and every day here, dancers are rehearsing and an army of creative types are working to bring performances to the stage. With me is Rafael Bonachela, who's the company's artistic director. Raf, welcome.
Thank you, Louise.
So you started out as a boy in a Spanish town with no dance school, and here you are all these years later as the leader of one of the world's most prestigious dance companies on the other side of the planet. How did that happen?
Well, I always loved dancing, but I didn't take a proper dance class until I was 15, which is when my parents allowed me to get the train from La Garriga to Barcelona, to the big city. So every Friday after high school, I would take a dance lesson. Within 2 years, I joined a contemporary dance company in Barcelona. I'd never even been to see a contemporary dance show, but I was fascinated by dance, and it was a job. I was suddenly touring around Europe, and I got to see many more companies and to realize actually that I needed more training, that although there was a lot of natural qualities to me, I needed to do more ballet, more contemporary, and I then got a scholarship and I went to London for 2 years. And in 1990, I did an audition for Rambert Dance Company. I got the job, and I spent 12 years dancing as a professional dancer with Rambert, dancing some of the work of the greatest choreographers. And that was really the best choreographic school I could have ever had. In 2000, no, actually the last 3 years in Rambert, I was dabbling between being a dancer and also associate choreographer for the company. In 2004, I decided to break free into the freelancing world of choreography. I applied for the Place Prize, which is Britain's most prestigious choreographic award, and it was the first ever edition, and I got it. And that money really helped me to launch my own dance company, Bonachela Dance Company. I then also became a resident artist at the South Bank Centre, and I started creating work in collaboration with other artists, which is something I've always enjoyed. It was only 6 dancers and me, but I think it was that company that Sydney Dance Company heard of my work and my trajectory. So in 2008, I was invited to create a work for Sydney Dance Company as a guest. And the rest is history, because within 3 months, I moved to Australia and I took this incredible job, which was the perfect opportunity for me at the right time after having been living and working in London for 20 years.
So the shift from dancing to choreography happened quite early on for you. What is it about choreography and creating work yourself that gets you so excited?
When I was a very young kid, my favorite game in the playground was called To Make a Dance. And I didn't even know that was called choreography, or that you could even become a choreographer or anything like that. But I just loved doing it, and it really felt very natural to me. So for me, movement choreography, it's about expressing what cannot be said. And that's really what excites me. Then I became a professional dancer, and I was the one that was always really curious about the creative process and how other choreographers would make their work. So it fascinated me, the endless possibilities of what the body and bodies can do and can say in time and space. And I was always really trying my own thing on the side as I was a dancer. So for me now, with my work, I try to communicate about emotional and psychological states, about people, about relationships, about humanity, through a very intensely and abstract style of movement. And the last thing that I would say that I love about dance and contemporary dance is that as an art form, it allows multiple interpretations and different readings, and that's something very unique and very, very special.
when you start working on a new piece for the first time, where does that process start for you?
Look, I never know where my next idea is going to come from, to be honest. So I just stay open. I stay open and curious. I read, I listen to music, I go to concerts, I go to galleries, I meet artists, I search on the web, and I live life in a 21st century urban environment. So for me, really, it's my personal and human instincts, and also my emotions are always my starting point. And from there, I move outwards creatively. So sometimes an idea comes into my mind and I grab it and I jump for it, and sometimes I have to look hard for it. But I will say that life in general inspires all my work. From the micro to the macro, everything in this world touches me.
So if you're in a situation where you're having to look hard for an idea, do you have strategies that help you with that?
Yes, I do. I keep a lot of drawings and photographs and postcards and books and music around me. So my studio, my office here at Sydney Dance Company, it's a little bit of a mess of a lot of things that you never know what they can trigger. You know, and then again, it's about staying in the moment and going to see things and talking to people. And I will spend sometimes weekends at home listening to music. It's a vortex that is never ending. So there I am in Spotify or wherever it is, following different artists. And because music sometimes can trigger ideas. Sometimes it could be the work of an artist or a simple word. You know, I look a lot into the meaning of words. That's one of the things that always motivates me a lot.
And throughout the development process, do you try to stay quite flexible? Do you anticipate that the work will change from the idea to the moment it reaches the stage?
Because my process is very organic and also very instinctual, ideas always shift. And they always evolve and they change day to day. So for me, it's very important to stay open so that I can respond to what's in front of me at that point when I am with the dancers, and I can question it and I can investigate it. And that always brings new things to what I know, and new ways of working, and new ways of expressing and saying things. So sometimes I stick to an idea because I think it's worth it. Sometimes that idea will shift. And you go a little bit with the flow of things.
Can you give an example, something that's happened in the studio that's really changed the direction of a work?
Look, it happens all the time. You know, I will come in always very prepared and with a couple of ideas, and sometimes the dancers will suggest something that they've been thinking about because of the environment that I work in. And I don't have like a specific one, but there's been many occasions where, you know, just being open and questioning things have shifted things in a different way.
Do you have a sense of whether your work is largely the product of inspiration, that quite elusive beast, or is it more about old-fashioned hard work? For me, it's a mix of the two. So inspiration is great, it's fantastic, and it's an artist's best friend. But with inspiration by itself, not everything can happen. You know, so for me, rigor and routine and discipline are also very big parts of my process. If I want to keep creating to the highest level of quality and ambition that I ask from me and from each of the dancers, it takes a lifetime of hard work and focus to become a professional dancer. And I think I brought that with me into my new practice at choreography. So I prepare myself a lot. You know, I look at the videos every evening, I listen to the music, I dissect it. I have a plan. Whether it's going to work or not, I've got one. So when I walk into the studio, if inspiration is there and it's flowing and we're finding a way of working that feels natural and organic, we go with it. And that's what I was saying earlier about staying open and responding to the moment. But if it doesn't, and you hit one of those walls or blocks that we talk about often with artists, then at least I have a plan that's going to help me to get to where I need to. Outside the studio, would you say that as a business, Sydney Dance Company has a creative culture? Absolutely. At Sydney Dance Company, across all areas, everyone has to work creatively, from the admin team and the way that they
problem solve, and actually the production team working behind the scenes when we're on stage, making everything else happen, you know, really, really tightly choreographed at the same time to make the magic and the performance be brilliant. And then also our education team that prepares all of the resources that go alongside our performances for the young kids that come to the matinees and do our workshops. It's incredibly focused on creativity, because that's one of the big things for us in what we do in contemporary dance. And a company like Sydney Dance Company, you have to achieve a lot with very little. So it demands for people to be creative. You know, you have to think in those ways. You don't have a lot of money, and you've got to do the best you can with it and touch and reach as many people. And then there's also another element, which is that in contemporary dance, we sell what doesn't exist yet. You know, so often our performances are not attached to a fairy tale or to a well-known book or anything like this. It's something that has a very abstract name that no one's ever heard of before, and that it's being created right now, but we're asking you to engage with it, to support it, to buy a ticket months earlier. So everyone has to think outside the box so that we can connect with audiences and make them trust that what we'll do will be a very inspiring and fulfilling journey, the one of contemporary dance, where everyone can make their own story. So, yes, people have to be creative at Sydney Dance Company.
How do you foster that culture outside the studio where there's not, in areas where there's not necessarily that tradition of creativity? Yeah. How do you create that? And for other companies, are there lessons to be learnt there for companies that want to be more creative?
Look, I think in the way that I work, I have a very open environment where people can have a dialogue and people can throw ideas in the mix. And we brainstorm, and I talk to everyone in all of the areas of the organization. And one of the things that I do also is everyone's invited into the studio all the time. So I don't keep the studio as some sort of sacred place where, you know, nobody enters until I'm done. It's like the door is open. You can come and see how we work, how you take risks, how sometimes things work, how sometimes don't work. And I'm an open book and very transparent. So I don't mind chatting to everybody in the organization about the way that I do things. And I think that that filters through the organization and creates this culture of not being scared of taking risks, of looking outside the box, and everything that, you know, can help organizations.
When you arrived at Sydney Dance Company 9 years ago, you instigated some pretty big changes. You really shifted the focus to a much more contemporary way of moving, which could be seen as quite a challenge for the people who are already there. How do you ensure that, as a leader, you bring other people along with your creative vision?
I think I was very lucky because 9 years ago, when I took on this role as artistic director, Sydney Dance Company were looking into the future, and they were really, really ready for change. So it wasn't so hard for me to bring people along with my vision, because they wanted to be part, most people wanted to be part of this new chapter for Sydney Dance Company in its history. And the Arts Council and also the board of directors that employed me were very, very supportive of what I wanted to do, and that was very, very important for me. So I think that as a leader and an artistic director, if you are genuinely passionate about what you believe in and what you do and your artistic vision, it's always easier to bring people along. And of course, you lose people along the way. And of course, 9 years ago, some people decided to move on. But that's part of life, that's inevitable. And especially with dance, because you cannot dance forever. It's a short career. So you cannot waste your time. You need to know as a dancer what you want to be and where you want to be all of the time if you want to have a successful career.
You program a lot of your own work at the Sydney Dance Company, but your programming also shows a real talent for spotting the gifts of other choreographers. How important is it that a creative leader lets the ideas of other people shine alongside their own?
For me personally, I could never not help and support talented individuals. And I believe that a real leader is able to support and to bring others into the spotlight. Whether it's an up-and-coming ambitious young choreographer as part of New Breed, or whether he's bringing a world-renowned choreographer like William Forsythe. You know, for me, it's about being surrounded by talented people, because that makes me want to be a better artist every day. And then also for me, it's very important, and it's one of the biggest things in my artistic vision, which was to bring to our audiences the best that dance has to offer from Australia and from around the world. So the only way to do that is to be generous and to invite people to come along in that journey. And for me, it's an immense pleasure and satisfaction when I see audiences really respond to work that they have never seen before and they've never been exposed to before, and really be inspired and be moved and be challenged. And you know, there's so many things that I don't do as a choreographer, like humor, for example. Maybe one day, but not yet. Or, you know, other areas, dance theater. Some people use text, I don't. So for me, it's wonderful to see the work of other artists being performed on stage alongside my work.
One of the hallmarks of your work is that you love collaborating with people who come from outside the world of dance, from fashion designers to Kylie Minogue to art galleries. What is it that you're getting out of that process of collaboration with other people?
For me, I get a lot out of collaboration. And for me, it's a way of staying connected to some sort of ongoing stimulation source, because I'm interested in learning new ways of working and new ways of process. And that's what working with other people teach you. And sometimes you throw yourself into situations, like when I did my first pop concert for Kylie Minogue. Did you think I had a clue? I didn't. But I somehow believed in myself a little bit, and I felt like also supported and protected by incredible artists. And they believed in me, you know, which was more important. And I learned a lot. And you never know what's going to happen, how it's going to go, whether it's going to be a success. But that's part of the excitement of the creative adventure. And especially when you work for the first time with an artist, there's an element of risk, but I would not change it for anything.
Can you tell me about that moment of seeing Kylie doing your choreography?
Look, it was something that I had never, ever thought that it would happen or I planned. But the moment where you're sitting with thousands of people at the same time in the same room, some of them are 8, if not younger, some of them are 80, if not younger, and you feel the love in the room for that artist and for that person, and you're part of it. In a way, it's one of the most, you know, I get goosebumps. You know, you're in some big concert hall and everyone's there to have a good time. And everyone's there to enjoy the performance. And it's an amazing, beautiful, very, very moving feeling.
You're a choreographer who demands a lot from the dancers that you work with, not only physically, but also intellectually and emotionally. Can you tell me about how they contribute to the work that you make?
The dancers that I work with contribute immensely to the creative process. They improvise. We do a lot of task work where we will generate the movement that then becomes the choreography, that becomes the language of the work, that becomes the identity and the personality of the work. So for me, the dancers are the work in many, many ways. A lot of the tasks that we do demand a lot from themselves, because they can be about going back into memories, into personal experiences. So you're asking the dancers to dig deep within themselves and find something new to bring into a creative process. And that doesn't happen without having built a lot of trust between them and I. So for me, I have always enjoyed working with dancers that are open for the creative process. And I always say that I like dancers with open minds and intelligent bodies, because that's important for me, because then it opens a dialogue between them and I, and that works both ways. So we both grow as artists, me as a choreographer, them as dancers. We all find new things, and we all find ways of communicating better with audiences.
And the dancers of the Sydney Dance Company can expect to do the same thing a lot of times. They might perform the same work dozens or even hundreds of times. Do you have strategies to keep things fresh and to keep that creative energy high?
For me, a work is never finished. And what that means is that I'm always tweaking it, changing it, finding new things in it. And that really helps to keep it alive, to keep it fresh, and to never feel like we're being very repetitive about it, even if it's been 5 years later, like we've been doing with To One Another. That's gone everywhere around the world, and we've brought it back to Sydney this year. Sometimes I'll change whole sections of a work because I see them differently 4 years later. And if I have the time, I change it. And other times, new dancers come into the mix, and they have to learn something that it was created on another body and on another person, and came from another artist. So I will always make it sense to them. I will always find new things within their physicality that are going to bring something new to the work. And for me, dancers know that I allow them to explore more of the work as time goes through. So I never tell them to replicate what we did 5 years ago. I'm not interested in that. I want them to keep exploring, to find new qualities, to find new ways of stretching and new tensions within the movement, so that it's relevant to them at that point in time.
Raf, you're obviously a very busy guy. Is it important that you find the time and the headspace to think about those big ideas, or is that something that happens for you even when you've got a lot going on?
I'm at my happiest and most fulfilled as a person when I'm at my busiest. So that's a good job, because Sydney Dance Company keeps me running at 1,000,000 miles an hour all the time, because I have to be across so many areas that are not just the artistic side of things. But that's something that I love and I enjoy doing. But what that means is that new ideas and new opportunities and new thoughts have to come as I go. I do transcendental meditation. That's something that I started soon after my appointment at Sydney Dance Company, because I realized how much energy I had to have and how much energy I had to give to the dancers, to the team, and to the supporters, and to everybody. And that's not even thinking about talent or ambition or focus, just energy. So transcendental meditation has helped me to have 2 moments in the day where I'm with myself. And I really believe that it helps me to be more efficient, and it gives that space that I need for ideas to come into my mind and new possibilities to arise, even if I'm going and going all the time.
Over the course of your career, are there things that you've learnt about creativity that other people or businesses could benefit from?
Creativity, for me, it's about imagination. It's about thinking outside the box. It's about looking for as many different ways of approaching and looking at something from different angles. And for me, it's also very tied up to my instincts as a person, and as a choreographer and as an artist. But one of the things that I've learned is that, at least in my case, creativity is not sort of connected to some sort of divine channel, you know, that you tap into or you switch on and suddenly creativity comes because you're an artist. But that you have to work hard and also be focused on your craft, because that will help you to learn more about your own creativity and to find new ways. And always, like I said earlier, be open and in the moment, and also listen to other people, because that's really an exchange that supports that element of creativity. So yes, that's what I've learned.
Raf, thank you so much for your time and your insights and your stories.
Thank you so much, Louise. My pleasure.